Chapter 8. Try making a personal checkup. When the car doesn't perform properly, we take it to the garage for a checkup. When some part of the body fails to function, we go to the doctor for an examination. When our consciousness works against our best interests, we should analyze our belief, thoughts, attitudes, and mental habits. Let us test ourselves by self-examination. Let us check ourselves against the rules. Let us find out where we are falling down so we may know what we do to get better results. As you read, ask yourself the question that leads each section and answer in terms of the discussion that follows. 1. Check the source. Do I know where my supply comes from? Most people approach their problems from the wrong end. The good we are seeking comes not from the outer world, but from within. The kingdom of God, said Jesus, is within you. We are focal points of its expression. Good first exists within us. We have only to change our consciousness to allow it to be expressed in our living. It will materialize in our experience when we remove the obstacles it encounters. Since God is the creative source, to take the credit for our supply because of what we do at the job, business, or profession, or to give the credit for our health to our heredity, or to observance of rules, is to deny the creative principle, to take credit for something that doesn't belong to us. Perhaps it is the reason we sometimes have a difficult time in contacting the source when we are in need. If we do not acknowledge God as the source of our supply in periods of health, peace, and prosperity, we cannot expect to find Him quickly in time of need. To believe that our good is dependent upon personality severs our connection with the actual source. If we want to find the source of all good, we must reach back through the self to the divine substance and life of which we are a part and realize our oneness with it. The law of faith acting through thought increases or retards the flow of substance. Make sure that you understand this point before going to the next one. Your success in demonstrating prosperity or anything else you desire is determined by the level of your understanding of the statement. You are a thinking center of divine mind. Substance flows through you and for you according to your faith. If you have been using the law of faith negatively, drawing lack, limitation, disease, and failure into your experience, you can change these manifestations by changing your thought. Do you see the picture? Do you understand it? When you change your consciousness out of a negative state into a positive state, you reverse the law and change its expression in your life. Instead of working against you, the law of faith works with you. The law of attraction on any plane is stated in the Master's words. I and the Father are one. Get this understanding and you need not fight, worry, or struggle for your good. Wherever you are, the allness of God is. This makes you independent of money, people, circumstance, conditions, and things. You are in the world, but not of it. In this unity is your completeness, sustenance, wealth, support, and economic freedom. Happy is the man, said Solomon, that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. Solomon did not lean upon the perishable symbol of dollars and cents, but upon the imperishable and invisible ideas in mind, and so must we. 2. Check your emotions. What do I do about fear? If you are suffering from ill health, unhappiness, or financial stringency at a present time, it is almost certain that you are also suffering from fear. Fear is faith working for the wrong thing. Fear and lack go hand in hand. You seldom find one without the other. Jesus said, according to your faith be it unto you. Faith works just as effectively for poverty as for prosperity, for health as disease, for peace as discord. Fear can be the most dangerous of all of our emotions. Faith is a feeling and a conviction, an acceptance of an idea as real, whether it be positive or negative. What you fear you have faith in and claim as your own. If you fear that some dreadful thing is going to happen to you, you have faith in evil and are attracting it to yourself. Do you remember what Job said about his misadventure? That which I greatly feared has come upon me. Had he been living in this time, he probably would have said, all the evil that I saw and feared had settled down upon me. Fear is the most great of all the negative states of mind. Since the universe reacts according to our faith, a negative faith will always bring out the worst, not because we have consciously brought out the worst, but because our faith is turned in the wrong direction. Pessimistic moods, the feeling that everything seems to go wrong, worry over expense, dissatisfaction with a job, disappointment in someone dear, a sudden lack of self-confidence are the common lot, but these moods require immediate and drastic handling by the seeker after truth. Was there ever a year when spring did not come? Well, spring is here now if you wish it to be, for the weather in your mind is determined by your thoughts. Life responds to us according to our expectations. Faith works for misfortune just as readily as it does for good fortune. To get the most out of life, we must keep our thought patterns positive. We must keep our emotions true. We must keep our faith moving in the right direction. If we have negative faith, we must move it into positive channels. The law of reversal is very simple. Control your thinking. 3. Check your mental images. Do my mental images correspond to my desire? In any demonstration, we must have a clear mental picture of what we want and then hold to that picture until it is established as a reality in our lives. The imaging faculty, imagination, is the drafting department of the mind. We use it to make a clear and distinct picture of our desire. If we hold one picture today and another picture tomorrow, we run into a dead-end street. We are like the man of whom the Bible speaks. Let a man ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he who wavereth is like a wave on the sea, driven by the winds and tossed. Let not that man think he will receive anything good of the Lord. Changing the picture from day to day ends in distortion. By holding the image steadfast in thought, we give the law of faith a chance to establish it in our lives. We have the power to move in either direction. It takes no more power to move toward our goal than to move away from it. When we learn to identify ourselves with abundance and wealth, well-being, our affairs will reflect our prosperous state of mind. 4. Check your relationship to the law. How do I use the law? Everything that comes into our lives, whether good or ill, comes through law. There is only one law, but there are many ways of using it. The law does not change. It cannot be abrogated, violated, nor set aside. To get good results in spiritual work, we must use a law according to its nature, that is, the way it works. We might use it to bring out good instead of evil. The law does not know what we are using it for. It knows only how to act. Moses said to the children of Israel, "Behold, today I set before you a blessing or a curse." We can use the law to injure or to heal, to prosper or to make poor. The effect of the law is determined by our relationship to it. Shakespeare wisely said, "There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." The law increases whatever we give our attention to. Attention imparts substance and power to whatever it falls upon. If we constantly pay attention to our poverty, the poverty grows. By thinking about wealth, we activate the principle of prosperity that gives form to the idea of substance and brings abundance into our affairs. By concentrating upon health, we make it a reality in our lives. The selection of the focus is our responsibility. The law is a doer, but not a knower. It knows us only by what we know about ourselves. It can only follow the pattern that we give it. In fact, it is so exact that it works out every desire to the minutest detail. In the past, we have often used the law to our detriment and produced bondage. Now we are able to use it to our advantage to produce freedom. Many people think that the law, as it were, two powers, but this is an erroneous concept. Good and evil are just two ways of using the one life force. Lack comes to us through the same law that produces plenty. If we are tired of limited health, circumstance, and happiness, we must stop thinking and talking about them. If we have been using the law in a limited way, we must now reverse the process and use it in an unlimited way. When we are rightly related to law, using it positively instead of negatively, our thought of abundance will produce plenty. Our thought of wholeness will produce health. Our realization of our oneness with the source will result in joy. We can determine our relationship to the law by watching our spontaneous thought process. 5. Check your habits. Do my habits serve or frustrate me? What a tremendous power habit is. It is God's way of making good automatic in man's life. It is nature's way of turning thought and action over to the subconscious mind. Man has the power of choice as to the direction of his thinking, the quality of his thought, mental habits he establishes. Having chosen, he ceases to be responsible for the manner or the means by which his thought becomes reality. His subconsciousness takes over and reproduces in his life the pattern he has set up in his thinking. William James said, "The more details of our life we can hand over to the effortless custody of habit, the more our higher forces in mind will be set free for their proper work." How important it is then to get our habits working for us instead of against us. How essential it is to deposit in the treasury of the subconscious mind impulses that produce good. When an idea becomes habitual, it materializes in our lives automatically. Everyone should seek a consistent and persistent good. There is no reason why we should alternate between health and illness, joy and grief, good season and bad season, financial ups and downs. If we are using the principle according to its nature, we are establishing in peace, prosperity, and perfection. 6. Check your service. What kind of service do I give? One of the laws seldom stressed in metaphysical teaching is the law of service. It is a point of weakness in our work and probably draws more criticism than anything else. You are too self-centered, too self-seeking, says the critic. We sometimes tend to forget that no other teaching of the Master falls with greater force upon the well-being of mankind than this matter of service. Wise indeed was the author of the motto, "He profits most who serves best." No biblical promise is without a condition of some sort. The promise of prosperity, and all things shall be added unto you, is contingent upon our seeking the kingdom first. When we realize that our business is the Father's business, we shall carry His Spirit and presence into every avenue and activity of our lives. We shall render our service, whether it be great or small, in the spirit of the Master who said, "I am among you as he that serveth." We shall stop asking, "What are we going to get?" and shall ask, "What can we give?" We shall stop worrying about whether people appreciate us and learn to appreciate others. We shall recognize the love and power released in our lives as commitments of the sincerity of our service. To understand why so many people have ill health, financial difficulties, and discordant lives, it is only necessary to watch the indifferent service given to the public by many who earn their bread in a specific area. Real service is giving the best one has, whether it be helping someone on the street, showing courtesy to a stranger in a tax office, reciprocating a favor, answering a letter, or waiting on a customer. It is one of the laws that Jesus gave us. With what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. 7. Check your attitude toward others. What do I track by my attitude? One of the psychic blocks that interfere with our demonstration is indiscriminate criticism, seeing lack in others. Ill will, animosity, and critical thought about other people seriously affect our own well-being. What thou seest, that thou beest. What we see in others come to dwell with us. If we see lack and express it, we attract lack. But such an attitude, we set in motion a law which repels our good instead of attracting it. Dwelling upon the limitation, mistakes, errors, shortcoming, and offenses of others results in materializing those shortages in our own lives. Vitriolic criticism is a form of destruction, retaliation, revenge, but the way of God is forgiveness. When the law of forgiveness really requires of us is that we turn our enemies and all those who offend us over to God. That is the first step in forgiving. It is accomplished by realizing it is not the person that we resent or condemn, but that particular evil which is controlling him. Evil is never a part of any person. Rather, it is an inequity that we have permitted to occupy his consciousness and control his actions. We are always dealing with a state of consciousness and not with a person. The second step is to call the name of the person against whom we hold resentment or antagonism and declare, "By the love, power, and authority of Jesus Christ, I now forgive," insert name, "for whatever he should be forgiven for." Then we should use the same words in forgiving ourselves for holding condemnation, bitterness, and revenge against the person we have named. In stubborn and deep-rooted attitudes of vengeance and hate, we may not have to forgive 490 times, but we must keep it all until the part of our conscience has been purified. What we are really doing in forgiving another is to remove the obstacle to the current of divine supply. The statement in the Lord's Prayer, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us," means that our own claim to forgiveness depends upon our forgiveness of others. There are other ways in which we can express forgiveness, such as praying for the offender, writing him a letter of good will, saying as many nice things about him as we can, and meeting him in an open, friendly term. 8. Check your godliness. Am I a godly man? The psalmist describes the godly man in the following words, "But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the river of water, that bringeth forth fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper." The godly man is one who knows nothing but the presence and power of God in every person, place, and thing. He realizes that there is nothing but God in the universe, and that he is God's activity. The godly man believes that he is the center through which the universal mind expresses itself, and that the measure of this expression depends upon his consciousness of it. Being one with God, he is like a tree planted by the river of water, drawing his supply from an invisible source which never fails. And how does the godly man draw upon this supply? By faith and acceptance, knowing nothing but the presence and power of God in the universe. He attracts nothing but the good into his life and affairs. He becomes like a tree planted by the river of the water, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The godly man does not judge according to appearance, but judges rather by righteous judgment. He does not think of God as handing out health and prosperity to a favored few, and withholding these blessings from others. He knows that he is dealing with law and not with a person, and that this law is to him what he is to it, that it reacts to him according to what he believes it to be. When things go wrong, the godly man does not blame persons, weather, circumstance, conditions, or God. He blames himself. He knows that there is something between the creative process and his personal experience which is blocking the pathway of the universal intelligence, and it must be removed. How does he go about this? By substituting positive thought for the negative one. The materialist, on the other hand, blames everyone and everything but himself. He sounds off like this. Well, why didn't I get that job I so much wanted? I suppose someone else had a bigger drag. What did I get fired? I'll bet the boss had a best friend he wants to place. Why did this deal fall through? The cards were stacked against me all the time. Look at my peach trees. If God is the source of my supply and everywhere equally in presence, why did he allow this hailstorm? Why did he allow the freeze? If you are guilty of such reactions, let me ask you a few questions. Did you ask God to express himself through you in your affairs of supply? Did you take him into partnership? Did you invoke divine protection? If you are a gardener, a farmer, or a fruit grower, did you recognize and cooperate with the life in the seeds you planted, or did you work against it? Planting crops or pruning fruit trees is just as much God's business as running the church or healing the sick. Or did you perhaps prevent God from expressing himself in your affairs by surrounding your crops or fruit trees with fears about the weather, insect, and pest? What did you tell the life in your seeds? What did you impress upon your fruit trees? Do you think or say or listen attentively to such ideas as these? It is a cold spring, and I'm afraid we are going to have a freeze. We are getting too much rain. We are not getting enough moisture. It looks as if I'm going to have another failure. If you are in business, did you cut yourself off from supply by resisting competition, by worrying about taxes, overhead, government control, by giving circumstance and condition power over your success instead of placing your problems lovingly in God's hands and depending upon his love to promote and increase your prosperity and progress? Are you a writer bemoaning the short story that your publisher rejected? Did you, from the beginning, place his story in God's hands? Did you ask him to think and write through you? Did you wait for his inspiration? Did you thank him for each new idea as it came? Did you ask him to guide you to the right publisher when it was ready to be sent in? Or did you send it where you thought and would get the largest check? Since God is everywhere equally present, he is in every seed and every idea as the life force that will produce all that we need when we recognize and cooperate with it. The godly man does not look to the weather or outside conditions when plowing his field and planting his seeds. He looks only to God. He sees the life in the seeds as containing everything needed for a perfect crop, including right growing weather and a good market. The godly man does not become gloomy and pessimistic when the barometer falls, for he knows that the creative law is operating for him and it never fails. Knowing God and God only as a source of his supply, he can always say, "There is plenty more where this came from." 9. Check your point of view. Do I dwell in my Christ self or in my personality? One of the first things that metaphysical students is taught is to claim that the good he desires is his now and to give thanks that he has it. How can we declare that we have a thing when there is no tangible evidence of it? This is hard to understand because we seem to be uttering a falsehood. This is an important principle involved in making such a claim. When a metaphysician makes a statement that he has all things, he is not referring to the personality or me of himself, but to the I. The me is only the skin casing, as we might call it, under which is the true self, the invisible man, the perfect I am which has always been. The metaphysician refers to this invisible man as the undivided or unseparated self. There is a vast difference between the personality and the individuality. When we understand this distinction, we see that the I, or true individual, is now and always has been one with the Father and can never be separated from him. But the personality, the me, or outer self, believes in two powers instead of one. It is that self of which St. Paul spoke when he said, "Put off the old man with his deeds." Believing in separation from good, the me is the cause of all our trouble, trying to serve the mind of the world instead of the mind which was in Christ Jesus. The me is serving the wrong master. In most people, the personality me has been allowed to expand to such proportion that it has taken possession of the whole man. In fact, there are many people who think that the me is all that there is of them. The true being of man is the Christ, or the I am. Exalt the self, and all things will be drawn to it until you express one whole, perfect, and complete being. Then you will understand for the first time the meaning of the words, "All things that the Father hath are mine." It is important to understand this, since the higher self is always one with the source of all good. When I claim that the good I desire is mine now, I am speaking the absolute truth of my Christ self. How, then, do these things become literal in my experience? by convincing the me that the claim is justified. Until we get the true viewpoint, we shall continue to be sick and limited and will spend much of our time trying to demonstrate truth. When we switch from the me and mind consciousness to the I and you consciousness, the mere desire for a thing starts to work into the law automatically. When you know that all things are yours in the I consciousness, and you arrive at a subjective conviction of this truth, thanking God for the fulfillment of your desire releases the power that brings the desire into material form. Now for a recapitulation. The first step in making a transition from the me to the I is to know that you are one with God and that all He has is yours. You must claim this with great feeling and conviction, not as the me, but as the I, which you are in truth. The second step is to dwell upon this truth until the me accepts it. See your desire in completion. Assume that the object of your desire is now in instant manifestation. Lift yourself to the consciousness wherein every desire you may ever have is already fulfilled. Let your prayer be one of joyous acceptance of the good that exists now in the universe of substance that is all around you. Since the universe always accepts us at our own evaluation, the important thing in time of need is to increase our consciousness of plenty. In time of illness, to enlarge our concept of wholeness. In time of conflict, to broaden our understanding of peace. When we enlarge our consciousness of good, good begins to move into our experience. We have whatever our consciousness is ready to receive. Our supply is determined by the size of the cup we hold up. Did you read thoughtfully? Did your vision grow? Did you get a glimpse of the new man that you can be? Are you determined now to enlarge the place of thy tent? Then try practicing the presence to this end.